Okay, so today I'm going to run very quickly for an end-to-end approach to win new clients. So first of all, we're going to look at the macro, which is kind of like the market, competitor insights, identifying opportunities. Then we're going to come into the micro, which is more about your business, your customer, and then through to the engagement. So how do we engage with them through a marketing plan and a brand strategy? I'm not going to go right into the tactics such as paid ad structure, different email automations. I'll show you a screenshot of that briefly, but if you do want to talk about it, obviously we've got breakfast and coffee, etc. I have, how do I do this one here? Okay. I've got 3 goals for the day, so to give you as much information as I possibly can in about 28 minutes, to communicate why this process is important, and most importantly for you to be able to go away and to be able to implement this in your business. There are some little packs on the desk. Everybody loves a workbook. So in those, a couple of the frameworks that I've got on the screen today. So if you wanted to make any notes and then take them back and you can work through them with your teams. So hopefully that will be useful to you. Does anybody know this little picture on the left? Any guesses? No? So it's death of a salesman. I use that a lot when I'm talking to recruiters, thinking about innovating, new creative ways to do things. So I like to keep that kind of at the forefront of everybody's mind. We need to evolve, we need to adapt, because those will be the people that are still here in 10 years and have built those relationships. So why bother? Yes, this is the why section of the presentation. I actually didn't have this in there. I put it in because Dave, on a podcast a few months ago, said to me, yeah, but why don't we just take the quick wins and run with it? That makes sense, we've got money coming in. Yes, okay, I do understand that, but the quick wins, they're not going to give you sustainable growth, which is what we want. And looking at that end goal, maybe you've got an exit strategy in mind. So if it's always going like this, that's not particularly attractive. So we obviously want your growth to be sustainable. So with everything that we're implementing and looking at, you want to make sure that it's data-led and sustainable for the future. We've got return down on the left, so obviously you want to be seeing that pound for pound return on your investments. I think since COVID, a lot of the research that I did is that decision makers were more aware that return wasn't just monetary. There are other forms of return that will eventually lead to that pound for pound. So I think that's good that kind of that education with senior stakeholders has changed a bit. But ultimately, how is it going to lead to that pound for pound? And then you've got your reinvestment and then incentives. So salespeople, recruiters, they love an incentive. But actually, do your incentives line up towards the end goal and getting that pound for pound? Then we've got strategic drift. Love this word. Basically, just structure. So you need to make sure that you've got structure. And why? Because it allows for measurement, it allows for review, those feedback loops between marketing and sales, and then accountability. So sometimes I think accountability can sound like a bit of a scary word, but really you should be confident in the decisions that you're presenting to board if you're a marketer, or equally if you're a senior stakeholder, you should be confident that you guys are making the right decisions to go to market. So accountability shouldn't be that scary if you've done the approach that we'll lay down today. Informed decision making, so that's kind of 2 different prongs. We've got externally, so by doing things like competitor audits, you can have a look at what your competitors are doing. Perhaps they're diversifying. Why are they diversifying? It might be moving to those bluer oceans. And then we've got trends as well. So to see what's out there, is there anything worth investigating that you could potentially capitalize on? And then internally, we've got those decision making. So as I said, with stakeholder communications, traditionally, it's been quite difficult for marketers to connect with people in finance, for example, and speak that language. So by creating an approach that everybody is brought into and is able to communicate at the end of it, we're going to have a better outcome. Everybody's on the same page. There's no ambiguity about marketing spent £500 on this LinkedIn ad. We don't need that. Everybody's brought into what it is that we're working towards. There's far less confusion in the business. Okay, part 1, market. I will caveat, this is my approach, Aquila's approach. There are thousands of different models and frameworks out there that you can use. And when you do this, you might end up plucking different ones out that are fit for your business or your exit strategy or what it is that you're trying to achieve. But these are some of the core ones that I work through to go to market, customer, and engage. Okay. SWOT, very obvious one if you're focusing on the opportunities and threats. PESTLE. You can look at all those different factors up here. 5 forces, if you're familiar with this one, it's okay. 5 forces is quite good because it has a little box called substitutes, and as recruiters, you've always got that threat that people might take it in-house. So that's quite a good one for you to look at. The one that I want to look at today is the competitor audit, specifically digital. So since COVID, there's been a lot more digital platforms. The rate of media spend has just gone astronomical. So this is one that I think is probably right for recruiters right now. My ocean on the left, the reason I've put that in there, is anybody familiar with the red ocean, blue ocean theory? Okay, I love this one. This is where I just geek out because it's great. So with the red ocean, blue ocean, the idea is that a red ocean is a really competitive environment. So you've got lots of sharks, they're eating on the food, there's lots of blood, so you've got your competitive ocean. You want to move to a bluer ocean, so where there's more space, there's more customers, you can get that market share more easily. So that's the red ocean, blue ocean theory, so kind of just keep that in mind when we go through. This is a template which you'll find in your pack, which could be used for a digital competitor audit. Each of these sections you might change depending on your business. So where we've got other down here, some recruitment agencies might say, actually, sustainability is really important for our space in the minute. If you're working with public sector and they've got things like B&G targets, you might need to focus more on this area. So when you're looking at your competitors, you're going to have a box for sustainability or partnerships, and you're going to invest a little bit more into those. Mission and tagline, I quite like this one because when you go onto a website, it's quite easy to see if a company has worked through this similar approach that we're going to go through today, because they'll have it very clear what their mission, vision, and values are. Some places kind of just have a tagline. It's a bit confusing. You go between the pages and you think, are you great at this? Are you great at that? Like, how do you differentiate that? I don't really understand. So if you can put that down, it's useful to come back to. And don't forget, you're going to do this for each competitor, direct and substitute competitors. So you might have 10 at the end of these that you look at, and you will always go back to the first one and add more information in, because as you start to look at your competitors, you'll think, oh, actually, did the first competitor have this? Or can I go back and see if they had anything on CSR? Digital. So this is where you make some notes across things like the website. Can you see that they're running paid ads? What are their Google reviews like? Any awards? Are they now doing podcasts? Do they have a place on their website for downloadable content and resources? Service and value proposition, again, linked to the mission. This is really obvious to see if they've been able to do the next step, which is the value proposition canvas. There are a lot of businesses which don't actually understand what it is that their customer wants, and they're unable to communicate that. So what are they selling? How are they selling their services? So how is it structured? Maybe you have to go in and you have to look by industry. Maybe you have to go in and have a look by product. So that's worth looking at. And why is it different? So why do they think that they're differentiating themselves from you? Social, personal brands. Personal brands is a big one for recruitment at the minute. So we would encourage you to look at the company's social channels and then who the big personal brands are behind that company. You'll find, as an example, for Tesla, and I think actually there's quite a good podcast on this section about personal brand v company brand. You'll find that more people follow Elon Musk and they do Tesla. They get most of their awareness through the personal brand. So actually investing into your recruiters to build up their personal brand is really important. It doesn't mean they're going to leave you and they're going to take that with you. That's internally a culture that you're meant to reward and create. Brand identity, so that's all about, how does it make people feel? What's the experience? What's the story? And your values, mission, and culture. So it should kind of connect all of this stuff together. You can equally do this on your own company as it stands today. So go through and start to plot out and then have a look against your competitors and think, actually, we don't have any resources on our website. We're not giving away any valuable content. We're not helping people. And you'll start to be able to kind of spot areas of weaknesses. This is purposely zoomed out a bit because I think this is being filmed, which is fine to use. These are strategy projects that I've done. But the idea is that you can take all of that information and build them into things like brand maps. So you've got different verticals. So you might take all of the competitors and say, I want to have a look at how they stack up against sustainability and then value proposition. Or perhaps digital presence and social presence. Maybe it's a little bit different. This one's quite cool. This was done looking at the EPOS market and then looking at the marketing software industry. And then we've got one that merges them together. So this client here was basically trying to penetrate a sector that has a bit of crossover. And then behind it, we've got the blue ocean and the red ocean. So you can see those people that are moving into bluer waters. And then we've got some clusters. Again, it's just a different way to visualize things. So you've got the red ocean in the middle, or this one, for example. They had all of these competitors to start with, and then we've said, actually, through going through the analysis, it's just these ones that we consider as a direct competitor. The other ones are good to look at, but these ones are international businesses. They've got like 500,000 followers, and these ones over here have maybe got 10,000 followers. They're good to look at, but realistically, you're benchmarking yourself against a team that's maybe 10 people strong. Okay, moving on to customers. I appreciate I do go through this really quickly. My husband was like, why do you seem like you're going to explode? I was like, there's just a lot I need to get out. Okay, so moving on to the customer. Again, a couple of different models that you could look at. This one, I'm not a big fan of this one, but it kind of looks at product more than service. But maybe if you were going to innovate and not be the death of a salesman, and maybe move into something like, I know, a subscription model of recruitment where people can outsource. I know it could be an idea. Maybe that's something that you might want to look at. 7 Ps of marketing, previously the 5 Ps. I'm not a big fan again, purely because I think marketing's got a lot to do these days, especially in the digital landscape. And quite often, marketing isn't setting the price or the margin, and they're also not setting what the product is or the business model and the process behind it. So I think unless you've got everybody in a room to help out with mapping out the 7 Ps or a business model canvas, probably isn't worth getting into. We're going to look at the value proposition canvas, which is one of my favorites, and then also personas, or you might know those as avatars or ideal customer profiles. This is the value proposition canvas. So this is born out of something called the business model canvas, which is a larger template, and we're just taking these 2 sections. So you've got the section on the left, which we refer to as the value map, and then we've got the section on the right, which is the customer profile. So we're basically matching your customer with your business value. So on the right-hand side, and this would be where you would fill out your template, in some instances, businesses might need to fill out 2 to 3 of these value maps if your customers are very, very different. For example, I had a fitness client, and they categorized their customers in bandings based on how many clients they did personal training for. And they were very, very different offerings for each group. So we had to split that out. So on the right-hand side, you've got jobs. What jobs does your target audience have to do? So is that getting from A to B? Is that impressing management team, gaining peace of mind? Jobs can be functional, emotional, and social. And then we've got pains. So when they're trying to do this job, what are the challenges that they're facing? What are the risks? What are the obstacles? You need to be thinking, why is it hard for them to do this? Because that's the way that we can then create gain and value add. And then gains at the top. So what for them is a job well done? What does good look like? Is that results, benefits? It might even be aspirations. So have a look at all of these different things. And also I would consult with your sales team, because they're the people that are on the floor. You know, your recruiters, they're speaking to these people all of the time. They've got so much information. Make sure that you're extracting that. And then over on the left, this is where we're trying to map it. So we've got the pain relievers down the bottom. So your products and services would go here, and then you would list in how it relieves these pains. So there should be a clear connection between the 2. And then we've got gain creators. So how are you maximizing? And this is what I call a value add. So where are you going above and beyond the recruiter next to you, rather than just making a placement? Okay, and what? How are you delivering value beyond recruitment? Stat, 72% of services fail to deliver on expectations because they haven't done this piece. So that means 7 in 10 businesses will fail because they don't understand what it is that their customer wants. They don't understand, they're unable to communicate, and ultimately they won't win the business at the end of it. This is Harvey. I thought you guys might like this one. So this is actually a recruitment supplier. that some of you in the audience, you would have fallen into their target audience. So this was Harvey, and he's the MD of a recruitment company of about 30 people. So we've got this section in the middle, jobs, pains and gains. So that comes from the right side of the customer segments. So that populates this section down here. So we've got a really clear view of Harvey. And again, this is where your sales team or recruiters would feed into that information, and they'll already have somebody in mind and think, actually, so-and-so would align more to this. On the right-hand side, this is where we start to pull together things like personality, what softwares are they using, and key touch points. And this section is going to start to inform the engagement piece, so your marketing plan. These are quite useful if you're in a meeting. Some businesses have started to print them out and have them on the walls, so that when you're making decisions that impact your customers, which most of your decisions will at some point, you've always got your avatars in mind. So you're thinking, okay, how does this impact Harvey? Or if it's not impacting Harvey, how is it impacting Sarah in operations? So you're always thinking of the customer first when you make those decisions. And then part 3, last but not least, engagement. This is purposely blurry because I wasn't going to create a 6-month marketing plan for the hell of it. But the important bits to remember, big caveat, if your marketing team has delivered you a marketing plan, it doesn't look like this, it doesn't mean it's wrong. This is just, everybody has their own way of kind of providing that information. This is how we would provide our marketing plans, a little bit like a Gantt chart. This column down here, you'll find that a lot of these areas, for example, website, so these sections are areas that you might have taken off of your competitor audit. So you'll be saying, okay, this block here, this is what we're going to be doing over social. This is going to be our email automation in this. And then we might have PPC, so if you're going to put in a structure for that, and then how that might overlay with campaigns. So you're going to build out this marketing plan. Stakeholders. Stakeholders like to understand risk, they like to understand the money and the time. So this is where marketers, you need to take your marketing plan, and I would advise putting it into this little SAFE criteria. Super easy to do. What you do is you pick it up, you add a column in here for resource, so if it's in-house, if it's additional budget, if you need a third party or a new piece of tech for your business. And then here you're going to say time. So to action that activity, low, medium or high, maybe it's medium to high. So you map that out, a brief description, and then you've got this criteria. Suitability. Does it meet the business objectives? Is it suitable for what it is that the business is trying to achieve? Acceptability, so is it acceptable to stakeholders? And that's all stakeholders. So that might be finance, that might be the owner, that might be external investors, it also might be employees, because they've got a stake within the business. And then is it feasible? So that's looking at things such as risk, resource, and money. So it might be a case that actually to action one of these, you need 4 pieces of tech. It's probably not very viable, and that's probably going to have an impact on the acceptability score as well. So your stakeholders might open this document, and some of them would go in and they would filter. Use this column in Excel, and they'll just filter to put them in risk order. Then say, okay, do the top 10. I would advise, if you're a decision maker, not to take that approach. I know it may seem easier and quicker, but your whole team have worked together to deliver a plan up until this point. I would suggest that probably reading through and making an informed decision with a little bit of common sense and human connection behind it to say, actually, this is what we should achieve. Because I've had some businesses which have taken ones which are amber in the total, because actually they feel that while there was a slightly higher risk attached and a little bit more investment, long term, it was going to yield better rewards. And obviously the person filling out this, there is going to be a little bit of subjective nature to it. So it's quite good to come in and actually review the information that's been presented to you and then be able to make an informed decision. So that is my very, very quick run through of some models and templates to look at the market, then think about your customer, and then a way to engage them.